The moment I saw Karen Peaton marching up my driveway, that scowl welded to her face like she was born with it, finger wagging before she even hit the porch steps. I knew this was it, the showdown I'd been waiting for, and if I'm honest, I almost felt bad for her. Almost. She didn't see the grin tugging at my mouth as she barked in that shrill whistle of a voice that I had exactly 1 week to join the HOA, or she'd drag me into court herself. If only she'd known right then she was walking into the best-laid trap I'd set in years. Let me back up a second. My name's David Thornton. About 6 months ago, I landed a job at a downtown law firm. Good pay, decent people, and moved into what looked like the perfect spot on the edge of Maple Ridge Estates. Big oaks, a porch that wraps around like a hug corner lot. There was just one odd thing about this house, and I swear it matters. My property line was a clean 18 inches outside the official HOA boundary. 18 inches less than a baseball bat's length. But in those 18 inches, I was a free man. Exempt from Karen, from her minions, from the whole circus. No fees, no rules, and best of all, no Queen Karen breathing down my neck. Or so I thought. See, Karen had been the so-called president of the Maple Ridge HOA for, 8 years running. Nobody could remember ever voting for her, but there she was holding court at every meeting, passing out fines for grass that dared to grow half an inch too tall, demanding paperwork for paint colors, even if you were just touching up a scratch. The only thing scarier than her list of rules was how nobody seemed willing to cross her, at least not until I showed up. My trouble started about 2 weeks after I moved in. Karen strolled over clutching a welcome basket stacked with HOA bylaws, a fee schedule, and enough compliance forms to make your head spin. All delivered with this sugary sweet voice that couldn't quite hide the steel underneath. She said I had 30 days to register and fork over a $500 initiation fee plus $150 a month, or else. I told her as politely as I could that my lot was outside the HOA. Her face shifted through every color of the sunset before settling somewhere near purple. She snatched my property deed, studied it like she was cracking the Da Vinci Code, shoved it back at me, and promised to look into it. That was the start of the campaign. First came the letter's official HOA letterhead, all capital letters threatening legal action if I didn't join immediately, or if I continued freeloading off HOA services. Never mind that my yard was immaculate and my house looked better than hers ever would. Then the monthly HOA meetings, my property backed up to the community center, so I could hear every word Karen screamed to the neighbors railing about the holdout on Elm Street who was costing everyone money. Most folks just sat there, eyes glued to their shoes, but I caught a couple of sympathetic looks on the way out. Small victories. The forged notices, though, that was where things got creative. One morning I found a letter taped to my door city seal, and all claiming the HOA boundaries had been officially expanded to include my lot. But the seal was crooked, and the mayor's signature looked like a sixth grader traced it. Another day a letter arrived claiming state law required me to join the HOA since I lived within 500 feet. All nonsense. Then she really pulled out the stops. Her nephew, some junior lawyer from 2 towns over, sent me a cease and desist full of legalese so jumbled I nearly snorted coffee out my nose reading it. I saved everything in a folder labeled, very professionally, evidence. But the kicker. One Saturday morning, September bright and early, my security camera pinged an alert motion in the backyard. And there's Karen, clipboard in hand, tiptoeing around my shed, taking pictures like some dollar store detective. I stepped onto the deck, kept my tone calm, and asked if I could help her. She whirled around, not the least bit embarrassed, and announced she'd documented 17 violations. She'd paint garden, decor, bird feeder, too tall, you name it. When I reminded her she was trespassing, she actually laughed and said the HOA had the right to inspect any property in the neighborhood. That's when I told her what I did for a living, property law, specializing in HOA disputes. And boy, the look on her face, you'd have thought I'd tossed a live snake at her. But she still wouldn't back down, threatened me with over $3,000 in fines, then stormed off, nearly tripping over my hose. What she didn't know was that I'd been waiting for this. Every letter, every visit, every trespass was logged, photographed, backed up. Hell, I even hired a private investigator to dig into her HOA business. What he found, it was a gold mine. The following Monday, Karen got 2 things in her mailbox: a formal cease and desist from my firm spelling out harassment, trespassing, and defamation, and a lawsuit seeking damages. Emotional distress, property rights plus fraud and abuse of power for the forged documents. Of course, Karen called an emergency HOA meeting that very night, trying to whip everyone into a frenzy, ranting about how I was destroying the community. Only this time I walked in. She stopped mid-screed. The room went dead quiet. I asked to address the group. To my surprise, the board agreed, so I laid it all out: property maps proving I was out of bounds, forged notices, security footage of Karen's greatest trespassing hits. And then the bombshell: my investigators' report showing Karen had been embezzling HOA funds for years. Travel, new kitchen, even her so-called maintenance, all paid for by the neighborhood. That was the twist nobody saw coming. The room erupted. Neighbors who'd never spoken up suddenly remembered fines, bullying, special assessments that never amounted to squat. An older lady, trembling, told everyone how Karen fined her $800 for letting her grandkids draw chalk on the driveway. I told them the local news was coming by tomorrow and the district attorney was very interested in the embezzlement. Karen went from red to pale as Pace tried to shout me down, but it was too late. A board member called for a vote of no confidence and it was unanimous except for Karen herself. The weeks after that were a blur. News vans, interviews, neighbors sharing horror stories on camera. The DA opened a formal investigation. More evidence rolled in: phony fines, forged receipts, credit card statements. Karen tried hiring a lawyer, but none of them wanted to touch her case. She ended up representing herself. In court, she blustered, waved around her authority, even tried submitting one of her fake documents. The judge didn't even need a recess. He called her out for fraud on the spot. When my lawyer laid out our case, the harassment, public shaming, trespass, forgeries, attempted extortion, the judge barely let Karen get a word in before ruling in my favor. 35 grand in damages, another 15 in my legal fees, and a restraining order that put 100 feet in a world of difference between me and Karen Peaton. But you know what? That wasn't the end. The criminal trial made the civil case look tame. Turns out over 8 years, Karen had pocketed more than $100,000, tiny amounts regularly, but it added up. Fake invoices, duplicate reimbursements, HOA cards used for groceries and fancy dinners. Forensic accountants, ex-board members, everyone lined up to testify. The prosecutor refused to cut her any deals. After 2 weeks, the verdict came in: guilty on all counts. Embezzlement, fraud, forgery, breach of duty. Half the neighborhood filled the courtroom for her sentencing. People actually clapped when the judge handed down 3 years in state prison and ordered restitution of $123,000. Karen crumpled sobbing as the bailiff cuffed her, and for the first time I almost felt bad, almost. Now, if you walk through Maple Ridge Estates, things are different. The board is run by people you actually see mowing their own lawns, waving when you drive by. The rules make sense and nobody's afraid to ask questions at meetings. My house, still immaculate, still outside the HOA, and the wraparound porch has become kind of a local legend. But every now and then someone will ask, did it really have to go that far? Was I right to take it all the way, or did I just break a bully to prove a point? Maybe both. Maybe that's what community is: standing up when nobody else will. Or maybe it's just about picking your battles and making damn sure you win the ones that count. So what do you think? Was I the hero or just another troublemaker? Is justice about rules, or is it about standing up to the people who abuse them? I'd love to hear what you'd have done in my shoes. Drop your thoughts below. Who was right, who was wrong, and where's the line in your neighborhood?